How early adulthood shapes financial thinking, the story of one adaptation. In psychology, there is a concept that almost never appears in financial discussions, yet it explains a great deal about how people relate to money. That concept is parentification. Parentification happens when a child is forced to grow up before their nervous system is ready. The child takes on responsibility, emotional weight, or an adult role, not because they are unusually mature or naturally strong, but because someone else in the family system cannot carry the load. The child steps in to keep things functioning. This is important to understand. Parentification is not limited to extreme circumstances. It does not require poverty, abuse, or addiction. Very often, it happens in families that look perfectly normal from the outside. A home, school, food on the table, clean clothes. Yet inside, there is instability, emotional strain, and a quiet absence of support. The feeling that no one is really holding you. What parentification looks like in an ordinary family? Imagine a typical household. The mother is constantly anxious. She worries about money, work, health, relationships. Emotionally, she is overwhelmed. She may snap, then cry. The father is often at work, emotionally distant, or simply exhausted. When tension builds at home, he disappears, not always physically, but emotionally. The child notices these patterns very early. They learn quickly that if mom is in a bad mood, it's better not to ask for anything. If dad is irritated, it's safer to stay quiet. If there is peace at home, it is fragile and must be protected. The child begins to take on behaviors that seem helpful, reasonable, even good, but are actually adult responsibilities. Comforting mom, it's okay, don't cry, I'm here. Becoming the easy child, not crying, not asking, not causing problems, constantly reading the emotional climate of the house, deciding when it's safe to speak and when it's better to stay silent. Thinking far too early, how can I make things easier for everyone? This is parentification in real life. No dramatic labels, no big declarations, just a quiet internal decision. If I don't stay in control, things will fall apart. What happens to the nervous system and why it lasts? A child's brain is highly adaptive. It doesn't analyze trauma, it adjusts to survive. When support is inconsistent, the brain learns to stay in control, anticipate problems, remain on constant alert, always have a backup plan. In childhood, control is a survival strategy. In adulthood, it often becomes a permanent operating system. This is where money enters the picture. How this pattern transfers into finances. Years pass. The child grows up. They have a job, an income, a bank account. Outwardly, a normal adult life. Internally, the same equation remains intact. Control equals safety. Only now, control is expressed through money. A habit develops, checking the bank balance, not out of curiosity or satisfaction, but to confirm that everything is still holding together. Money stops being just a resource. It becomes a signal. Am I safe? This explains why someone can appear financially stable while remaining psychologically tense. Point 1. Why parentified people confuse safety reserves and capital. One of the most common financial patterns here is subtle but powerful. A person believes they are simply cautious, when in reality, they are confusing emergency reserves with growth capital. A safety reserve exists to protect you when something goes wrong. Capital exists to work for your future. A parentified nervous system often collapses the distinction. All money becomes do not touch money. The internal logic is simple. Any loss equals danger. Consider a straightforward example. Someone has $30,000. Their monthly expenses are $1,500. 6 to 9 months of expenses, roughly $9,000 to $13,500, would provide real security. Yet instead of saying, $12,000 is my safety cushion, the rest can be used differently. The internal response is, better not touch anything. This is not ignorance or laziness. It is the same childhood algorithm. If I don't move it, nothing bad will happen. Point 2. How fear of loss distorts financial math. Fear of loss does more than influence emotions. It reshapes the math a person is willing to accept. For someone accustomed to holding everything together, a loss is not just a number. It feels like failure, like letting go of control, like the system collapsing. As a result, the person often chooses guaranteed but minimal returns over higher long-term returns with natural volatility. In practical terms, a deposit or ultra-safe instrument yields 3 to 4% annually. Inflation runs at 4 to 5%. Purchasing power stagnates or declines. Rationally, this is obvious. But financial decisions are not made by spreadsheets. They are made by nervous systems. The issue is not that the person doesn't want to invest. They want to avoid re-experiencing the sense of danger they once felt, being unsupported, exposed, alone. That is why a deposit is not truly an investment. It functions as emotional sedation. Why checking the balance never fully brings calm, and when there is enough money, peace often does not arrive, because money is trying to perform a role it was never meant to fulfill. It attempts to replace emotional stability, a sense of support, inner calm, permission to be imperfect. But money cannot regulate the nervous system. It can provide options and freedom of action, but it cannot erase the old command: stay alert. That is why the balance is checked repeatedly. The person is searching in numbers for the stability that should have come from the environment. Point 3. Returning money to its proper role. 3 practical steps. If we talk about money seriously and without hype, the goal is not to become reckless or aggressive. The goal is to let money stop functioning as a sedative and start functioning as a tool. Step 1. Assign money clear roles. Just like in a business, money should serve different purposes. Money for living, daily expenses, money for safety, the emergency cushion, money for growth, investment capital. The key insight is simple. Not all money needs to live under survival rules. Step 2. Introduce controlled, tolerable risk. All or nothing strategies rarely work for parentified individuals. What works is scale. Small amounts the nervous system can tolerate. The safety cushion remains untouched. A separate portion is designated for growth and introduced gradually. This matters psychologically as much as financially. The nervous system must learn that risk does not automatically mean catastrophe. Step 3. Avoid decisions made at peak anxiety. A simple rule with real financial impact. If a decision brings more emotional relief than rational sense, pause. Sometimes the most intelligent move is not action, but delay. A pause is not weakness. It is protection from outdated internal programs, where real capital thinking begins. True, financial growth does not begin with a perfect strategy. It begins with an honest realization. My caution is not always strategic. Sometimes it is an old adaptation. Parentification produces capable people, disciplined, resilient, responsible. That is a powerful foundation for financial life, but it can also trap a person in a mode where money exists only to guard the past, not build the future. If this idea gave you something to think about, I'd appreciate your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to see more content like this, consider subscribing. Your support truly helps this channel grow. When money stops acting as psychological support and returns to its rightful role, working toward what comes next, that is real financial maturity. The capital thinking. No hype, just logic.